It's funny how some nights burn themselves into your memory, like a scar you never asked for. I was soaked to the bone, standing outside her apartment, a wedding invitation in my hand, her name printed in gold cursive, Emma Carter, the girl who once said she'd never leave me, the same girl who now belonged to someone else. I don't know why I was standing there. Maybe I thought if I stared at the envelope long enough, it would vanish. Maybe I hoped she'd open the door, laugh, and say it was all a big mistake. God, I was stupid. He opens the envelope slowly. A soft melody of piano plays as flashbacks begin, warm, golden light, laughter, a cozy coffee shop where she reaches across the table and steals whipped cream from his drink. Jake. She used to call me Sunshine, even though I hated mornings. She said I looked at the world like it still had magic in it, like people were still worth believing in. And for a while, I believed her. Flashback shifts, her hands on his face, her voice whispering, "I love you," under starlight, then cuts quickly to an empty bed. Jake sitting alone, back turned, her side cold. Jake. But people don't always mean what they say. Or maybe they mean it until they don't. It wasn't just a breakup. It was how it happened. How fast she changed. One day she was dreaming about a cabin in the woods and 2 kids with my smile. The next, she wouldn't even look me in the eye. Back to Jake in the rain. He clutches the invitation tighter. Camera slowly zooms in. His voice shakes. Jake. But nothing hurt more than that night at the hospital. I remember the cold fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic, the weight of a dozen questions I couldn't answer. Emma stood there in the hallway, her eyes wild, tears streaming down her face. And me, frozen. "Why are you here?" she screamed. I opened my mouth. I tried to say I loved her, that I needed to know she was okay. But then she said it, words that ripped my world in half. "I never loved you, Jake. Not once." Silence, just the sound of a heart monitor. One long beep echoing in the distance. Jake! That sentence didn't just hurt. It shattered me, because I believed her. Every kiss, every promise, every moment we laid awake at 2 a.m. talking about forever. How do you come back from that? Back to present. Jake slowly drops the invitation. It lands in a puddle, ink bleeding. Jake! I didn't move. I just stood there, letting the rain drown the last piece of me that still belonged to her. Because if she really never loved me, then everything we had was a lie. He walks away, shadows swallowing him. The music swells, haunting, unresolved. Jake. But something didn't feel right that night. There was something in her eyes. Something I didn't see until it was too late. And I was about to learn that the truth was far worse than any lie. They say the moment you meet someone who's going to change your life, you don't always know it. But I did. I remember the first time I saw Emma, like it just happened. It was sophomore year at college, and I was running late to an early morning lecture I had zero interest in. Coffee in one hand, bag barely zipped, and a mind already wandering far from the lecture hall. I stumbled into class and grabbed the only open seat left, right next to her. She looked up from her notes and smiled. Just smiled. Not the kind of smile you give out of politeness or habit. It was full, honest, like she saw me. "Rough morning?" she asked, eyes flicking to my half-spilled coffee. "Is it that obvious?" I laughed, wiping my notebook with my sleeve. She chuckled, and that sound, it stuck with me. Soft, warm, like home. Her name was Emma Caldwell. I didn't know then how much that name would come to mean to me. At first, we were just 2 students in the same class. Casual conversations before lectures, maybe a wave across the campus lawn. But somehow, little by little, she kept finding her way into my days. We shared a class project once. That's when it all shifted. I remember we stayed up till 2 a.m. in the campus library, pretending to research, but really just talking about everything. Dreams. She wanted to be a writer, not for fame or money, but to tell stories that made people feel something. She had this quiet fire in her, this relentless drive that wasn't loud. But you couldn't ignore it either. And me? I was floating, half in business school, because my dad thought it was practical, and half in limbo, because I hadn't figured out what made me come alive yet. Emma listened, really listened. She didn't try to fix me or tell me what to do. She just held space for me. I remember one night, we sat outside under this flickering lamppost near the library. It was mid-October, and the air smelled like dying leaves and cheap campus coffee. I told her about my mom, how she passed away when I was 17, and how I hadn't really let myself grieve. Emma didn't say a word for a while, just reached out and held my hand. That silence, her presence, it healed something I didn't even know was broken. We started spending more time together. Not dates, not yet. Just time. Study sessions that turned into late-night food runs. Random walks across the city. Her reading poetry to me under blankets when it was raining outside. She had this habit of underlining phrases in every book she read. I caught her once writing one on a sticky note and leaving it in my notebook when I wasn't looking. It read, "You found parts of me I didn't know existed, and somehow you loved them too." I think that's when I knew. I didn't just like her. I was falling for her. Hard. One night, in the middle of December, it happened. We were walking back from a winter festival, snowflakes catching in her hair, cheeks flushed from the cold. We stopped in front of her dorm. She looked up at me, eyes shining, and said, "I don't want this to be just a friendship anymore." And just like that, it wasn't. I kissed her, gently, like I was afraid she'd vanish if I held on too tight. And in that kiss, there was everything. Hope, fear, warmth, wonder. We weren't perfect, but it felt like the universe had paused just long enough for us to find each other. Looking back now, I think that's when everything started to change. When life stopped feeling like something I had to chase, and started to feel like something I was building with her. But of course, love doesn't always stay as easy as falling. And sometimes the same things that bring people together can slowly start to pull them apart. I remember the night it happened, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was so ordinary. It was a Tuesday, just one of those quiet, gray sky evenings where everything feels still, like the world is holding its breath. Emma had told me she was going to Friends art exhibit, some gallery downtown. I didn't think twice. Emma loved art, and I love how she lit up when she talked about brush strokes and color palettes. It made sense. It fit. But then I saw her, not at the gallery, not anywhere near downtown. I was driving past Ridley Park, on my way back from my brother's place, when I caught a glimpse of someone sitting on a bench under the streetlight, alone, hoodie pulled tight, legs crossed, head down, staring into the distance like she was waiting for something or someone. It was Emma. I slowed down, my gut twisted. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was just someone who looked like her. But when I turned around and drove by again, slower this time, she was gone. I texted her later that night, casually, just to check in. Hope the art show was fun. What was your favorite piece? She replied, "Oh, the whole thing was amazing. There was this sculpture made entirely of bottle caps. Unreal. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow, smiling face with hearts. Bottle caps." She made it up every detail. I remember staring at my phone for a long time. I could have asked. I could have said, "I saw you at the park." I could have pushed. But I didn't. I let it slide. I told myself maybe she just needed space. Maybe she didn't want to talk about it. Maybe it's nothing. God, the lies we tell ourselves when we love someone. The days that followed, they felt a little different, but not in a way I could explain to anyone else. It was in the pauses, in the way her eyes lingered just a little less when she looked at me, the way her hug started feeling like she was checking a box rather than holding me. She'd smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. She'd laugh, but it came a second too late, like she was pretending to still enjoy me. There were new passwords on her phone. A low battery excuse for every decline call. She started staying up late after I went to bed, scrolling, whispering on the phone in the hallway, saying it was her cousin in a different time zone. Maybe it was. But deep down, I knew better. Something had shifted. Something small. Something terrifying. And yet, I stayed silent. Because that's what love does sometimes. It makes you blind. It makes you soft. It makes you afraid to shake the foundation because you don't want the whole house to collapse. So I kept pretending. I played the good boyfriend. I kissed her forehead and made her coffee and asked about her day like nothing had changed, even when everything had, but every night, when she turned away from me in bed, curling up on her side, instead of falling asleep with her head on my chest like she used to, that silence between us felt like 1,000 unsaid words. And still, I didn't ask. I didn't want to know the answer. Because sometimes it's easier to live with a lie than to face the truth you already suspect. I should have confronted her. I should have asked why she lied. But instead, I tucked that red flag into the back pocket of my heart and told myself it was just a wrinkle, nothing more. And that was my first mistake. The worst part? I didn't know then that it was only the beginning. It was a cool September evening, the kind where the air carries a quiet promise. Something about the way the leaves rustled under the soft breeze made the world feel softer, slower, almost like it was waiting for something. I remember how my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not out of fear, really more like adrenaline. 2 years. 2 years of morning coffees, sleepy phone calls, surprise flowers, late-night laughter, and quiet tears. 2 years of building something that felt more like home than any place I'd ever known. So, yeah, I was sure in the kind of way that settles deep in your chest. I wanted Emma. For always. We'd gone back to the spot where we had our first date, this little overlook just outside town, where you could see the city lights spill out like fireflies against the dusk. I had it all planned. A little picnic. Her favorite wine. Soft jazz playing low from my phone. It felt right. She laughed when she saw the setup, her eyes crinkling at the corners like they always did when she was truly happy. God, she was beautiful. We talked for hours. About nothing. About everything. And when the moment came, I felt it in my bones. I reached into my coat pocket, and the velvet box felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I stood up, took a breath, and got down on one knee. Emma, I said, my voice quieter than I intended, I don't want to imagine a life where you're not in it. You've been my best friend, my light, my anchor. Will you marry me? She froze. Just for a second. A second, so small anyone else might have missed it. But I didn't. Her eyes went wide, not in surprise, but something else. Something I couldn't place. Then she smiled. That same sweet, careful smile she always gave me when she didn't want me to worry. Yes, she said. Of course I will. She threw her arms around me, and I swear, for a heartbeat, everything in the world felt perfect. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. The way she clutched me, tight, like she meant it. Her lips brushed my ear as she whispered, I love you. I believed it. I wanted to believe it. But as I pulled back to look at her face, there it was, a flicker, just a flicker. Her smile was there, but her eyes, they didn't match. They held something unreadable, like her mind was somewhere else, like the yes had come from her lips, but not her heart. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was nerves, shock, anything but doubt. Still, it stuck with me. That flicker, that moment. We drove home with her hand in mine, the ring shining under the dashboard light. She kept talking about wedding colors, about telling her mom, about honeymoon ideas, and I listened. I laughed when I was supposed to. I nodded in all the right places. But something in me shifted. It was small, quiet, like the tiniest crack in glass, almost invisible, but once you notice it, you can't stop seeing it. I told myself I was overthinking, that love wasn't about reading every twitch of an eyebrow or analyzing every silence. And yet, when she kissed me goodnight that evening, her lips were warm, her embrace was strong. But the way she exhaled when she turned away, the way her shoulders slumped when she thought I wasn't looking, it echoed louder than any word she'd spoken. She said yes. I whispered into the dark, lying awake, the ceiling blurring above me. But I couldn't shake the question that followed. Why didn't it feel like a yes? I used to think love was the kind of thing that held you together when everything else was falling apart. But now I wasn't so sure. It had only been a few weeks since I slipped the ring on Emma's finger. That night, under the string lights and clinking champagne glasses, she'd said yes with tears in her eyes. I'd felt like the luckiest man alive. We were building something real, or so I thought, but something shifted. It started small, subtle, a strange silence where her laugh used to be, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes when she looked at me. I told myself it was the stress of planning a wedding, of balancing work and family expectations. People get overwhelmed. It's normal, right? Then came the party. A mutual friend's birthday, downtown, some rooftop lounge with overpriced drinks, and a crowd full of people we barely knew. I wasn't even going to go, but Emma insisted. "We need a night out," she said, slipping on that red dress that used to make my heart pound. At first, everything was fine. We mingled, drank a little too much, laughed at things that weren't that funny. Then I saw him. He was tall, dressed like he walked out of a magazine, a friend of a friend type, someone Emma kind of knew from college. I watched them talk. No flirt. Her hand brushed his arm when she laughed. She leaned in just a little too close. Her smile was different. It wasn't for me. I tried to shake it off, but the longer I watched, the more it burned. Finally, I walked up, wrapped an arm around her waist, and kissed her cheek. She flinched just slightly, but I felt it. When I asked her about it later, she laughed it off. "Are you serious?" she said, tossing her heels on the floor. "You're being paranoid. We were just talking." "It didn't look like just talking," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. And that's when she turned it on me. "Wow!" she scoffed, arms crossed. "So now I can't talk to anyone without you accusing me of cheating? Is this what I have to look forward to in our marriage?" I felt like I'd stepped into some twisted alternate reality. She flipped it so fast, I started questioning myself. Maybe I was overreacting, but the pit in my stomach said otherwise. Days passed. She acted like nothing had happened. Sweet texts, little kisses on the forehead, planning floral arrangements like everything was perfectly normal. But I couldn't let it go. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't mean to check it. God knows I want to trust her, but curiosity won. Fear won. And there it was. A message from him. "Had fun the other night. You looked amazing. Wish I'd had more time with you." And her reply, "You're trouble. Stop tempting me," winking face. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. The words hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken. When she walked back in, towel around her hair, I held up her phone and said nothing. She froze. Her face fell, then twisted. "You went to my phone?" "No." I saw the message pop up. I didn't want to believe it. She stared at me like I'd betrayed her. And then, like clockwork, the tears came. Big, wet, dramatic tears. She sank to the bed, sobbing into her hands. "It was stupid," she cried. "I didn't mean anything by it. God, I've been so stressed. The wedding, my mom, everything. I just needed to feel something. I don't know." I should have walked away. I wanted to, but I didn't. She grabbed my hands, begged me to forgive her, said she made a mistake, swore nothing physical had happened. That was just texting, just a moment of weakness. And I told her I forgave her, because I wanted to believe her, because the idea of letting go of everything we had, everything we were building, it felt worse than the betrayal itself. That night, I held her as she cried herself to sleep. I told myself this was just a bump, that real love was messy, that she still loved me. But deep down, something in me had cracked. And the worst part, I wasn't sure if I could ever fix it. I don't even know what tipped me off, honestly. It wasn't anything big, just little things. Missed calls, the way she'd suddenly turn her phone face down, the way her "I love you" started sounding like an obligation instead of a feeling. So I followed her. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Creepy, desperate, maybe it was. But when someone you love starts acting like a stranger, you start questioning your own sanity. You wonder if you're just insecure, or if you're waking up from a dream that was never real to begin with. That night, she told me she had a late meeting with a client. Something about finalizing a design. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and said, "Be safe." My voice cracked when I said it, like my soul already knew what was coming. She left in her usual calm, collected way, coat neatly draped over her arm, a confident smile like she had nothing to hide. But I didn't wait long. I grabbed my keys and followed her from a distance. I thought I was ready for anything. Turns out, I wasn't even close. She didn't drive toward her studio. Not even close. She took a turn I'd never seen her take before, wound through a few back streets, and ended up in front of a small Italian place, one of those cozy spots tucked away where no one's looking. She parked like she'd done it 100 times before, and then he showed up, some guy I'd never seen in my life. Tall, sharp-dressed, like a walking billboard for emotionally unavailable. She smiled at him in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. Not polite, not friendly, intimate, like he was hers. They hugged. She laughed at something he said. Then they walked in together, hand in hand. I sat there in my car for what felt like hours, but it was maybe 10 minutes. My heart wasn't racing. It had just stopped, like it couldn't decide whether to break or shut down completely. Part of me wanted to drive off, pretend I never saw anything. But the bigger part, the angry, heartbroken part, needed answers. I waited until they came back out, walking like two people who belonged to each other. I pulled up just as she was getting into her car. She froze when she saw me. Didn't even look shocked. Just annoyed. "Jake?" she said, stepping away from the car. "What are you doing here?" I couldn't even find my voice at first. My throat burned, but my chest was worse. It felt like someone had cracked it open and poured in freezing water. I finally choked out, "Who is he?" She didn't blink, didn't lie, didn't even flinch. Just looked at me and said, "It's not what you think." I laughed, actually laughed, because it was exactly what I thought. "You've been lying to me," I said, my voice shaking, sneaking around. "Emma, I loved you. I would have done anything for you." Her face hardened like stone. "Jake, I never promised you forever." That sentence, that one damn sentence. It felt like she reached into my chest and ripped out the last bit of hope I was clinging to. I never promised you forever. How do you even respond to that? Everything we had, every kiss, every late-night drive, every "I miss you" text, every time she called me her home, it all crumbled in that moment, like none of it ever meant a thing to her. I took a step back, trying not to fall apart right there in the parking lot. "So this is it?" I whispered. "You're just done." She crossed her arms. "Jake, you were always more into this than I was. You just never wanted to see it." I wanted to scream, to cry, to disappear, but all I could do was stand there, looking at the girl I thought I knew, realizing I never really knew her at all. She turned and got into her car, drove off like she hadn't just shattered the person who once believed she was his future. And I stood there under the flickering light of a parking lot lamp, alone in every sense of the word. That was the night the illusion ended. That was the night I realized love isn't always real, just because you feel it. But I wasn't done. Not yet, because there was still one thing I needed to know. Why? And somehow I knew the worst part of the story hadn't even started yet. I don't even know who I am anymore. There's this version of me in the mirror. Bloodshot eyes, stubble that's more neglect than style, wearing the same hoodie for I don't even know how many days now. Time slippery. Days bleed into nights, and nights feel like they never end. I keep telling myself I'm okay, but I'm lying. To myself, to everyone. The truth? I'm wrecked. I used to have direction, dreams. I used to smile without forcing it. But now I wake up with this weight in my chest, like grief, but slower, duller, like drowning in molasses. And it all started with her. No, that's not fair. It didn't start with her. It ended with her. What started with something beautiful. God, so beautiful. Her laugh used to pull me out of my own head. Her touch felt like home. But somewhere between loving her and losing her, I stopped being me. I started bending, compromising, shrinking. Little pieces of myself chipped away. My hobbies, my friends, my voice. At first, I did it willingly. I told myself it was love. Love is sacrifice, right? But love shouldn't be surrender. There's this moment that keeps looping in my head. Her birthday. I planned this whole thing, made her favorite pasta from scratch, lit candles, even played that stupid playlist she loved. I waited. Hours passed. I sat at the table like an idiot, watching the wax melt down. She showed up later, laughing at some inside joke with a coworker I'd never met. No apology, just a shrug, like I was the one being dramatic. And still, I smiled, said it was fine, lied through my teeth because I was afraid of losing her. That's the thing. I was always more afraid of losing her than she was of losing me. And now, I've lost her anyway. And the worst part? I think I lost myself first. I walk around the apartment, and it's like living in a museum of our memories. The throw blanket we argued about, but bought anyway. Her chip mug still on the shelf. Her scent lingers in the air, faint but cruel. I find myself sitting on the floor sometimes, scrolling through old texts, reading the same lines over and over, try to understand where it broke. Was it when she stopped asking how my day was? Or when I stopped telling her when I was hurting? Maybe we both gave up, just at different speeds. I replay the highs and lows like a broken record. That night on the rooftop, when she said she couldn't imagine life without me. That day in the car, when she said I was too much, too emotional, too intense, too everything. And I believed her. I let her define my worth. I let her words decide what I deserved. I used to be proud of my heart. I felt things deeply. I loved deeply. But now, all that depth feels like an anchor dragging me down. Every memory feels like a wave crashing over me, pulling me further into some dark place I can't name. I don't sleep much. When I do, I dream of her. Not the real her, some stitched-together version of her made from memories and hopes. And when I wake up, there's this moment, just a second, where I think she's still here. Then reality slaps me in the face. I check my phone more than I should. A part of me still waits for a text. A miss you. A come back. Anything. But it stays silent. And that silence is the loudest thing I've ever heard. I'm not angry at her. I wish I were. Anger feels cleaner, like something I could use to rebuild. But all I feel is this hollow ache. Like I gave so much of myself away. There's nothing left. I lost myself loving her. Now, I have to figure out if I can ever get that person back. Or maybe I need to become someone new. Someone stronger. But right now, I'm not there yet. I'm still in the wreckage. Still trying to breathe. Still hoping in some twisted way that maybe this pain means I'm still alive. I remember that day like it was frozen in time, one of those gray mornings where even the sunlight felt tired. My heart was heavy, like it had been carrying rain for months. I wasn't looking for anything, definitely not anyone. I just wanted a cup of coffee and a place to disappear for a while. The bell above the door chimed softly as I walked into this little corner coffee shop. Small, quiet, warm. It smelled like cinnamon and old books. I liked that. It felt like a place untouched by the noise of the outside world. I slid into a booth in the far corner, head down, hoodie up. I didn't want to be seen. And then I heard a laugh. Not the fake kind. Not polite. This laugh was full. Alive. Real. I looked up without meaning to, and there she was. She wasn't dazzling in that movie scene kind of way. No dramatic slow-motion entrance. Just real. Her hair was pulled up messily, a pen tucked behind her ear, and she had a journal open in front of her, one hand wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug. She wasn't scrolling through her phone. She wasn't pretending to be busy. She was there, fully present. And for some reason, that hit me. A few minutes passed. Maybe more. I got up to leave. I hadn't even touched the coffee, and I must have looked more broken than I thought, because she caught my eye as I walked by and said softly, "You okay?" Not in a nosy way. Not pity, either. Just human. I froze. No one had asked me that in weeks. And even if they had, they didn't mean it. But something in her voice, God, I believed her. I gave her the kind of shrug you give when the truth is too heavy to say out loud. She tilted her head and smiled, just a little. "You look like someone who's carrying way too much," she said. "Wanna sit?" I didn't know why I said yes. I just did. We sat there for almost an hour. She didn't push. She didn't ask for details. She talked about everything except the things that hurt. About her love for thunderstorms, how she writes poetry on napkins, and how she believes broken people make the best storytellers. She listened like someone who wasn't trying to fix me, but just wanted me to know I wasn't invisible. Her name was Lily, and in that moment, Lily wasn't a romantic escape. She wasn't a replacement or a rebound or some grand answer to the questions I hadn't even figured out how to ask yet. She was just peace. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe, like maybe the world wasn't all cold and sharp edges. Like maybe there was still kindness left in unexpected corners. We didn't exchange numbers. We didn't make promises. But she looked me in the eye before I left and said, "Hey, whoever hurt you, they don't get to keep all the space inside you." That stuck with me. Because maybe healing doesn't always come with fireworks or big dramatic music. Sometimes it's just a warm cup of coffee, a stranger's laugh, a booth in a quiet shop, a reminder that there's still softness left in the world, even for people who've been shattered. I walked out into the same gray world, but somehow it didn't feel so heavy anymore. And I wondered, maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of something. Maybe it was the beginning. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm proud of myself. There was a time, not too long ago, when just getting out of bed felt like climbing Everest. The air was heavy, thick with memories I didn't want but couldn't let go of. I'd walk past my easel, covered in dust, the brushes stiff with dried-up dreams. My old life, our life, felt like a photograph left in the sun too long. Faded, fragile, but still there. One morning, I found myself staring at that easel. I didn't mean to stop. I was just passing by on my way to the kitchen. But something about the silence in that moment, it felt different. Not empty, just quiet, peaceful. So I picked up a brush. My hand shook, not from nerves, no, from the weight of it all. All the time I'd wasted not creating. All the beauty I'd locked away with the pain. But when the bristles touched the canvas, something inside me clicked, like a door I'd forgotten how to open creaked back into motion. It wasn't a masterpiece. Hell, it wasn't even good. But it was mine, and that was enough. Day by day, I came back to that canvas. Some days, I'd paint for 10 minutes. Others for hours. I'd lose myself in color, in texture, in silence. My thoughts slowed. My heart hurt less. I started breathing again, not just existing, but really breathing. I stopped checking her socials. I didn't notice the exact day that happened. It just stopped mattering. At work, something shifted too. Maybe it was the way I carried myself. Less like a ghost, more like a man who'd made peace with his own shadow. I stopped saying yes to everything just to feel needed. I started taking initiative, pitching ideas, mentoring the younger guys. One afternoon, my manager pulled me aside and said, "You've changed, Jake." In a good way. A month later, I was promoted. It wasn't about the title. It was about the trust, the recognition. I wasn't just filling space. I was showing up for myself. Finally, I started noticing things I used to overlook. The way the sky blushed right before sunset. The laughter of kids biking down the street. The smell of coffee on a cold morning. There's this old man who walks his golden retriever every day past my apartment. We nod now. Sometimes he smiles. That used to feel pointless. Now it feels like connection. I even started volunteering at a local art program for at-risk teens. Not to be a hero or anything. I just wanted to share what helped me find my way back. One of the kids, Malachi, told me, "You make it feel okay to feel stuff." That hit me harder than any promotion ever could. For the first time, I wasn't living through someone else. I was just living, and it didn't feel like settling. It felt like healing. Some nights, I still think of her, not with bitterness, not with longing, just with softness. She was a chapter, not the whole book. My apartment's still quiet, but it doesn't echo anymore. It hums, with peace, with color, with the sound of a man putting himself back together. I don't know where this road leads. And for once, I'm okay with that, because I'm walking on my own 2 feet. And just when I thought I'd seen all the shades of love and loss, someone new entered the frame. But that's a story for tomorrow. It had been nearly a year since Emma and I last spoke. Not a word, not a call, just silence. That kind of silence that doesn't just echo, it haunts. I thought I was done with that chapter. I told myself I'd moved on, buried the pain, let time do its thing. But time's a funny liar. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because it was just like any other. I was at work, half listening in a meeting, half scrolling through emails on my phone. That's when I saw it. Her name, sitting in my inbox like a ghost come back to life. Subject: Jake, I need to ask you something. My heart stuttered. My fingers froze. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at it like it might vanish. If I blinked, part of me wished it would. When I finally opened it, the words were simple. Too simple. Hey, Jake, I know it's been a long time. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I'm getting married next month, and I'd like you to be there. There's something I want to say, face to face. Please, Emma. I read it twice, then a third time. Each word hit like a brick. She was getting married, and she wanted me there. I didn't know what to feel. Was I supposed to be happy for her? Angry? Confused? The truth is, I felt all of it. At once. Like someone had torn open a box I'd locked shut and shoved it back in my chest. My friends told me not to go. Said it would mess with my head. That it was selfish of her to even ask. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was stupid. But I couldn't help it. Some part of me still needed answers. Still needed her. So I said yes. The day before I left, I stood by my window and watched the rain hit the glass. That used to be our favorite kind of weather, cozy, nostalgic. The kind that made you want to hold someone close and forget the world existed. I thought about all the things I might say to her, all the things I shouldn't. But in the end, I knew I wasn't going for her wedding. I was going for her closure. At least, that's what I told myself. I took the same highway that led to the little town where it all started. Every curve of the road held memory. Her laugh echoing in the passenger seat, her fingers tracing invisible art on the window, her head resting against my shoulder at red lights. I hated how vivid it all still was. By the time I reached the hotel, it was evening. The sky had this soft gold hue, like it didn't want to let go of the day. I hadn't even unpacked when my phone buzzed. A known number. I picked it up, already knowing. Jake! Her voice. God, her voice. I froze. For a second, the world went quiet. Yeah, it's me, I said, my voice low, unfamiliar even to myself. I'm really glad you came, she whispered. Can we meet? Just the two of us. Before everything tomorrow. I didn't ask what she meant by everything. I already knew. We agreed to meet at the old bridge near Willow Creek. The one where she first told me she loved me. The one we carved our initials into. It felt like fate's cruel joke. As I walked toward that spot, heart pounding in my throat, I kept wondering, why now? What did she need to say so badly after all this time? And the bigger question, what if I wasn't ready to hear it? I hadn't seen her in months. Not really. Not since everything fell apart. And yet, there she was, Emma, standing beneath the rusted arches of the park bridge where we first met. Same wind brushing past her hair. Same silence hanging between us. But this time it wasn't warm. It was cold. Final. She didn't speak right away. Neither did I. I think we both knew the weight of what this meeting meant. This wasn't a second chance. This wasn't, maybe we can work it out. This was the end. And I could feel it pressing against my ribs like a stone I couldn't cough up. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. That should have meant something to me. But I was too numb to reach for sympathy. I shouldn't have asked to meet you, she said, voice barely louder than the breeze. But I couldn't leave it like this. I stayed silent, hands in my jacket pockets, trying to hold back the storm in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to hold her. But I did nothing. Just waited. She took a step closer. You deserve the truth, she said. The real one. The real one. Not the excuses she gave before. Not the confusion she blamed. Not the... It's not you. It's me. Rehearsed lines she threw at me like I wouldn't notice how empty they were. I used you, she whispered, eyes on the ground. I used you because I felt broken, and you looked like someone who could fix me. Her words cut sharper than anything I imagined, and I'd imagined every possible version of this conversation. I was lost, she went on, not just sad or lonely, empty, like I didn't know who I was anymore. And then you showed up. You were kind, solid, like someone who had a map when I didn't even know where the hell I was. My breath hitched. I didn't want to hear this, but I needed to. You made me feel safe, she said, voice shaking. And I mistook that for love. I told myself it was love. I needed it to be. She looked up finally, eyes glossy and tired. But wasn't, she said. Not real love. Not from me. I know that now. My throat burned. My hands curled into fists in my coat. I'm sorry, she said. I am so sorry. I wanted to hate her in that moment. I should have. But all I could feel was grief. Like I was mourning a version of us that only existed in my head. Like I was burying something I had been holding on to for too long. So, I said, voice cracked and hoarse, you never loved me? Her silence said it all. And God, that hurt worse than anything. You needed someone, I muttered, and I was convenient. She flinched, like the truth of it stabbed her too. No, she said quickly. You weren't convenient. You were good. You were what I wished I could love. That broke me. I tried, she said, choking on her own words. I wanted to feel it. I really did. But love isn't something you can force, and I'm so messed up. I didn't even realize what I was doing until I'd already hurt you. Tears finally escaped down my cheeks. I didn't wipe them away. All this time, I'd blamed myself. Wondered what I did wrong. Thought, maybe I was too much or not enough. But the truth was simpler. Crueler. She just didn't love me. She never did. I nodded slowly. Because what else was there to do? Thank you, I said quietly, for telling me the truth. And I meant it, even if it shattered me. She stepped back, like even being close to me was too much now. Or maybe she knew staying would only reopen the wound she'd just explained. She turned and walked away. No hug, no lingering goodbye. Just footsteps fading behind me, and the ghosts of everything we were never meant to be. I stood there long after she was gone. Let the silence settle. Let the truth sink in. And as the last light of day disappeared behind the trees, I finally understood. Some people come into your life not to love you, but to teach you how strong your heart really is. But even then, I wasn't sure I'd ever be the same again. The bells rang softly in the distance, light, delicate, like the sound of memories slipping through your fingers. I didn't turn around. Not once. My feet moved slowly across the gravel path, the crunch beneath my boots the only sound I could really hear anymore. The world around me had dimmed, blurred like a photograph left out in the sun too long. Behind me, people were cheering. Somewhere back there, she was smiling, and I was learning to let go. It's funny how life works. We grow up thinking love is supposed to end a certain way. Hands held tightly, lips whispering forever. But no one tells you what to do when your forever belongs to someone else. Emma wasn't mine. Not anymore. Maybe she never really was. I had stood there, hidden in the crowd, long enough to see her walk down the aisle. She looked radiant. Like a painting the universe had taken its time perfecting. Her dress floated with every step, and her eyes, God, her eyes still held that soft fire that once used to be for me. Or maybe I was just remembering it that way. Our minds tend to dress up old pain, like it's a gift we never got to open. I could have stopped it. I could have walked in, said something, made a scene. But love, real love, it's not selfish. It doesn't scream for attention or beg to be chosen. Sometimes it just stands quietly in the background and hopes they're happy, even if that happiness doesn't include you. I kept walking. People passed me by, strangers wrapped in laughter and camera flashes. To them, it was just another beautiful spring wedding. But for me, it was the burial of a version of myself I had to leave behind. Some people come into your life to teach you how to love yourself. That's what Emma did for me. Before her, I was always trying to be someone, trying to fit into what I thought love needed me to be. With her, I didn't have to try. I could just exist. I could be scared, broken, dreaming too big, falling too hard, and she still saw me. But here's the thing about love stories. They don't all end in shared mortgages and Sunday morning pancakes. Some just leave marks on your soul, reminding you that you're capable of feeling something real. I stopped at the edge of the park where we used to sit. The bench was still there, weathered and cracked. I remember her head on my shoulder, our fingers intertwined, like we were holding on to the whole world. I sat down for a second, just to breathe, just to feel. I let the wind press against my face like her hands once did. It hurt. God, it hurt more than I thought it would. But pain, it means it mattered, right? I reached into my coat and pulled out a letter I never sent. The one where I told her all the things I never had the courage to say out loud. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew every word by heart. Instead, I laid it gently under the bench, like leaving a piece of me behind, so I wouldn't carry it anymore. Maybe someone else will find it one day. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. I stood up and looked toward the sky. It was turning that soft orange color she always loved, the kind that made everything look like it was dipped in gold. I whispered goodbye, not to her, but to the life I thought we'd have. No tears. Not this time. I'd shed enough over the years, and now I just felt quiet. Still, like the part of me that loved her had finally exhaled. You don't always get closure. You don't always get answers. Sometimes you just walk away with the weight of everything unsaid and the hope that someday it won't feel so heavy. I started walking again, this time toward nowhere, just forward. And as I crossed the street, the last ring of those wedding bells faded behind me, like a chapter closing, soft and final. But I didn't look back, because for the first time in a long time,